Welcome back. Face Off Sports Network News Desk. I'm Anthony Servino. Breaking news in the NFL. Davante Adams traded to the New York Football Jets. And this is per Adam Schefter. This just literally went down. The compensation is for a conditional third-round pick that could turn into a second-round pick. More to the story. The Raiders are not going to pay any portion of the remaining salary tied to Davante Adams. The New York Jets will assume the remaining balance. Now, what does this mean for fantasy football? Fantasy football wise, this is huge. If you were sitting on Davante Adams, you were waiting for something like this to happen. There were trade rumors even in the preseason, that he would not make the season with the Raiders. And we saw teams like the Bills, like the Kansas City Chiefs, really need a wide receiver. They were always in the mix. The New York Jets were always the front runner because of Aaron Rodgers. Davante Adams is his guy, and you may have just struck gold. Maybe you drafted Adams and sat on him. Maybe you bought Adams low. This is potential league-winning fantasy football right now if you're a Davante Adams fantasy manager. Number one, here's why. Going back to history, Davante Adams and Aaron Rodgers together. Well, here's where Davante Adams finished wide receiver-wise. And granted, he was a little bit younger. Davante Adams is aging a little bit. 2021, the last time they were together, Adams was the wide receiver 2 in points per game. Going back, wide receiver 1 in points per game, wide receiver 6, wide receiver 1, wide receiver 8, wide receiver 12. So from 2016 to 2021, Davante Adams was a perennial wide receiver 1 in fantasy points per game. And obviously from the 2018 to 2021 time period, he was either a wide receiver 1 or 2 in that category for all but 1 year. What does this mean for Garrett Wilson? Because we've already seen it with Allen Lazard's presence, right? They brought in Mike Williams, who is a much more talented player than Allen Lazard. But Allen Lazard is Aaron Rodgers' guy. He trusts him from Green Bay. And Aaron will lean on his guys. Well, Allen Lazard has been productive. So what do you think this means for Davante Adams? There is no learning curve. Davante Adams knows the Nat Hackett offense. Davante Adams and Aaron Rodgers can play catch in their sleep. There is no learning curve here. The hamstring injury, I'm sure it will get better real quick, and we will see Davante Adams take the field sooner rather than later with his new team and with his old friend Aaron Rodgers. So when it comes, let's go to Garrett Wilson, because people assume that, well, they have Davante Adams now. Garrett Wilson, I need to trade him away. He's going to be useless in fantasy. No, he's not. And if you are thinking correctly, Garrett Wilson was always commanding the elite coverage, the L'Jarius Sneeds of the world, the Patrick Surtains in the world, the bracket coverage, the double coverage. No more. We're going to assume that Davante Adams is now going to command the elite coverage. And what does that mean for a player like Garrett Wilson? Garrett Wilson, he's going to get the secondary coverage. He may never see double coverage again while Davante Adams is on this team. And we know he has the elite skill set to beat secondary coverage. So no, maybe Garrett Wilson isn't going to see double-digit targets a game again, right? Because 3 times this year, he's gotten at least 10. He had that game 2 weeks ago with 23. Maybe Garrett Wilson gets 8 targets a game. But 8 targets a game facing secondary coverage with Aaron Rodgers, who I believe is going to take a step forward with Davante Adams here. And you give Aaron Rodgers, it was Wilson, Lazard, Mike Williams. Now you give Aaron Rodgers, Davante, Wilson, Lazard. This is league-winning fantasy football formula. I think Aaron Rodgers, who's been playing better the past few games in terms of, I get he's making mistakes, but fantasy football-wise, he's on the rise. He's throwing for yards. He's getting the touchdowns. This is big. So if you're a Garrett Wilson fantasy football manager, don't panic. Don't sell, because he may see a little bit of a downtick in targets, but I believe the efficiency for this kid is going to skyrocket. And when it comes to Davante Adams, I went over at the top what he and Aaron Rodgers are capable of. And despite his age and despite the bad quarterback play with the Raiders, Davante still had a spike week against Baltimore in week 2. We know he still has these big games in him. The buy low window is obviously closed, but I still want a piece of this offense, right? I would go, if you need wide receiver help, and let's say you're loaded at running back, I would try to flip. Go buy whatever wide receiver is cheaper. I think Davante and Garrett Wilson, they have eerily similar upside moving forward. And I would just go get whatever guy's cheaper in your fantasy league if one of the fantasy owners are willing to part ways. Now, I'm going to go a little bit deeper here. Mike Williams. Mike Williams is probably the odd man out. He was not included in this deal. But they're 4 deep at receiver now. And the Jets, they probably want to recuperate this third-round conditional pick. And what did I say at the top? The Buffalo Bills. I don't see the Jets trading Mike Williams to the Bills. All right, let's go there first. But they need a wide receiver. The Kansas City Chiefs. Ding, ding, ding. The Kansas City Chiefs are probably trading for Mike Williams. Here's why. The Jets don't need him anymore. And last year, if you remember, McCole Hardman was traded to the Chiefs. There is a recent rapport with these two general managers from these two football organizations. And I think the Kansas City Chiefs, now that Mike Williams is expendable, I think they're picking up the phone sooner than you think. So if you want to buy low, dart throw, lottery ticket, go buy Mike Williams right now, because I believe personally there's a really good chance he ends up with the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm Anthony Servino for the Face Off Sports Network. We'll see you next.